On September 19, 1826, a fisherman on the Niagara River hooked something heavy in the current. It slipped away before he could bring it to the surface. 3 weeks earlier, a man named William Morgan had been dragged out of a jail cell 50 miles away, forced into a carriage, and was never seen again. No body was ever confirmed. No one was ever convicted of his murder. But his disappearance triggered one of the strangest political chain reactions in American history: the collapse of the country's most powerful secret society and the birth of its first third political party. This is the William Morgan affair. William Morgan was not a prominent man. He was a stonemason and bricklayer living in Batavia, New York, in the 1820s. He claimed to have served as a captain in the War of 1812, though no military record ever confirmed the rank. He'd previously run a brewery in Canada that burned down and left him broke. By the time he settled in Batavia with his wife, Lucinda, and 2 young children, he was known locally for 2 things: heavy drinking and an unreliable relationship with the truth. What he did have was a membership, or at least a claimed membership, in the Freemasons. In the 1820s, Freemasonry was not a fringe club. It was the social infrastructure of respectable America. Judges, governors, sheriffs, and bank presidents were members. Business deals and political appointments moved through the lodge as much as through any courthouse. Membership meant access. In 1825, that access was taken from him. A new Royal Arch chapter was chartered in Batavia, and his name was left off the founding roster. The record doesn't say whether it was an oversight or a deliberate snub. What it does show is what happened next. Morgan decided to make money off the one thing the lodge couldn't take back from him: its secrets. By March 1826, he had a book deal. His partner was David Miller, publisher of a struggling local newspaper, who had also been denied advancement within Masonry years earlier. Together they planned to publish Illustrations of Masonry, a book claiming to expose the fraternity's private rituals and oaths. Half business venture, half revenge. Local Masons found out fast, and the response escalated quickly. Someone attempted to burn down Miller's print shop to destroy the manuscript. A public notice was printed condemning Morgan for violating his oath. And then came the arrests. On September 11, 1826, Morgan was arrested on a charge that he'd borrowed a shirt and a necktie from a tavern keeper and failed to return them. That charge was dropped almost immediately and replaced with a second one: an unpaid debt of $2.65. Small enough to sound ridiculous, large enough, under the debt law of the period, to get him locked up. Morgan was jailed 50 miles away in Canandaigua. His allies tried to get him released. Then, late on the night of September 12th, an unknown man showed up and quietly paid off the debt himself. That should have ended it. Instead, it triggered the abduction. The jailer had stepped away. In his absence, a small group of men told Morgan's wife they were there to help him. They walked Morgan out toward a waiting carriage. Witnesses on the street heard him shout one word as he was forced inside: murder. No credible sighting of William Morgan was ever recorded again. Testimony gathered afterward suggests the carriage moved west, through Rochester, through Lockport, toward the Niagara frontier on the Canadian border. Morgan was reportedly held for a period inside the old powder magazine at Fort Niagara. After that, the trail goes cold. 2 competing accounts have survived, and both still have supporters today. The first, Morgan was taken out onto the Niagara River in a boat and drowned, silenced permanently for breaking his Masonic oath. In 1848, a man named Henry L. Valance allegedly confessed on his deathbed to being one of 3 men who carried this out. The second, Morgan was never killed. In this version, a group of Masons paid him roughly $500, put him on a horse, and told him to cross into Canada and disappear for good. The uncertainty deepened in October 1827, when a badly decomposed body washed ashore on Lake Ontario. Given the timing, it was widely assumed to be Morgan's, and it was buried under his name in a public ceremony. Then a Canadian woman named Mrs. Monroe came forward. She identified the clothing on the body as belonging to her own missing husband, Timothy Monroe, who had drowned separately around the same time. One Freemason at the time was quoted calling the body a good enough Morgan for the outrage everyone wanted. The comment spread fast and did the movement no favors. To the public, It looked like confirmation that powerful men were willing to manipulate even a corpse to control the story. Morgan's wife, Lucinda, never saw him again. She eventually moved west, remarried, and became one of the wives of Joseph Smith, founder of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. New York's Governor DeWitt Clinton, himself a Freemason, publicly demanded the arrest of everyone involved and even contacted authorities in Canada for help. It didn't matter. 54 men were eventually indicted in connection with Morgan's abduction. 39 stood trial. Not one was convicted of murder. The problem wasn't a shortage of evidence. It was who was sitting on the juries and standing behind the sheriffs. Jurors were Masons. Witnesses recanted. In at least one case, a man previously indicted in the case later ended up serving on the grand jury for a related trial. A handful of low-level participants took short sentences for conspiracy. Everyone else walked free. To a public watching from outside the lodge, this didn't look like a justice system failing by accident. It looked like a private fraternity quietly overriding the law it was supposed to answer to. In 1827, Miller finished and published Morgan's book. It became an instant bestseller, ironically exactly what the two men had originally hoped for, just not the way either of them intended. That year, more than 100 anti-Masonic protest meetings were held across New York State. On St. John's Day, roughly 3,000 demonstrators marched on the Batavia Lodge, broke in, and ransacked it. In 1828, delegates held the first statewide anti-Masonic convention in Utica. By 1829, more than 100 newspapers across the northern states existed solely to attack Freemasonry. The country was primed for this kind of reaction. The founding generation was dying out. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams both died within hours of each other on July 4, 1826, closing out the Revolutionary era. A new class of bankers, merchants, and political operators was rising to take their place, and to a lot of ordinary Americans, that new elite looked tightly interconnected, bound by private oaths that ran deeper than any public duty. Morgan's disappearance didn't create that suspicion, it confirmed it. By 1828, local anger had organized into something the United States had never seen before, a national third political party, built entirely out of one unsolved disappearance. Journalist and political operator Thurlow Weed became one of its main architects, converting public fury into an actual electoral machine. The platform was simple: transparency in government and an end to secret oaths overriding public law. In 1831, the Anti-Masonic Party held the first national nominating convention in American history, a practice both major parties would soon adopt permanently. Their 1832 presidential candidate was William Wirt, a former Freemason himself. Wirt carried Vermont and took roughly 8% of the national popular vote. The party also won the governorships of Pennsylvania and Vermont, and placed candidates in state legislatures and Congress across the Northeast. The party itself didn't survive the decade. By the mid-1830s, it had largely merged into the emerging Whig Party, but its people didn't disappear. Millard Fillmore, an early New York anti-Mason, became President of the United States in 1850. William Seward, another early member of the movement, became Abraham Lincoln's Secretary of State. Two future leaders at the highest level of American government got their political start chasing the disappearance of a bricklayer nobody could find. 2 centuries later, William Morgan's fate is still officially unresolved. Most historians favor the drowning theory. It matches the abduction route, the timeline, and the later deathbed confession from Henry Valance in 1848, even though that confession was never independently corroborated. It's also the version carved into the monument later erected in Morgan's memory, which states plainly that he was murdered for revealing Masonic secrets. The payoff theory has never fully disappeared either. No body was ever confirmed. The Timothy Monroe mix-up undercut public confidence in the official account, and unverified rumors persisted for decades afterward of a man matching Morgan's description resurfacing alive as far away as the Ottoman Empire. The direct evidence is gone. Every witness has been dead for over a century, and the surviving accounts come from sources with an obvious bias: anti-Masonic pamphlets on one side, defensive Masonic rebuttals on the other. Neither side is neutral. What's certain is this: a man walked out of a jail cell in September 1826, shouted one word, and disappeared. That single unresolved absence was enough to reshape how an entire country thought about secrecy, loyalty, and the limits of the law. It's a question that's come back around, in one form or another, almost every generation since. The Morgan affair rarely makes true crime lists. There's no forensic breakthrough, no trial verdict, no confirmed ending. Just a missing man, a river that never gave up an answer, and a country that, for the first time, seriously questioned whether private loyalty inside its institutions was quietly overriding public law.